Hello everyone. Humans are the largest civilization on Earth with over 8 billion people. Now, picture a civilization with a population 2.5 million times larger than ours. The inhabitants of this society lived harmoniously in a well-structured system with a clear occupational hierarchy and career progression. They have advanced beyond primitive hunting and gathering to embrace farming and animal husbandry. These creatures, ants, constructed dwellings, cared for their young, elderly, and disabled, and buried their deceased. Ants can reproduce asexually and outlive the dominant species on Earth for over 100 million years. Could a simple infection turn ants into real-life zombies? Ants are not spectral beings capable of harnessing energy. Such radical transformation is impossible. Ants are not microscopic bacteria. They are visible creatures. Whether you reside in rural or urban areas, Asia or Africa, in a house or a high-rise apartment, ants will find you. If you pause for just a couple of seconds and contemplate ants, you might start to feel that Earth could be more of a planet belonging to ants than to humans. Presently, there are at least 15 to 70 recognized ant species on Earth. In contrast, we humans are a single species, Homo sapiens. The precise number of ants is incalculable, fluctuating in the millions and billions every second. It is estimated that there are approximately 20 quadrillion ants on Earth at any given time. To provide some perspective, each individual would need to contend with around 20.5 million ants. The mere thought of this makes my skin crawl. Collectively, they weigh about 20 billion pounds or 20 million tons, equivalent to the weight of 3.3 Great Pyramids of Giza or around 4 million adult cows. With the exception of Antarctica, ants inhabit all continents. They originated during the mid-Jurassic period, approximately 100 million years ago, on the supercontinent Laurasia, one part of the Pangaea supercontinent. Ants are believed to have evolved from a lineage of ancient wasps and may be distant relatives of modern bees and wasps. Despite resembling some termite species, ants and termites are not closely related. Termite eggs hatch individually, while ant eggs develop into larvae, then pupae, and finally into adult ants. Evolutionarily, ants are more closely related to bees. Similar to shoes or clothing, ants come in various sizes. Worker ants of the Corebra brulli type are a mere 0.8 of a millimeter long, making them almost invisible to the naked eye. Amazon's giant ants, on the other hand, can reach lengths of up to 4 centimeters. The largest ant fossil discovered belonged to the genus Formicium, measuring up to 7 centimeters in length with a wingspan of 15 centimeters. Yes, ants can be as large as a hand and may possess wings, typically seen in male ants and queens, not in worker ants. Did you know that worker ants are not male ants? Aren't they also considered queen ants? In terms of gender, worker ants are female, with most being sterile, meaning they cannot reproduce and are essentially asexual. How do they give birth? They do not lay eggs. This task is the duty and privilege of the queen ant. Queens are not chosen based on beauty contests or elections but are predetermined before birth. All fertilized ant eggs have the potential to become queen ants. Worker ants select one or a few larvae, feed them a special protein-rich diet, and transform them into queens. The remaining larvae develop into worker ants, ensuring the colony's functionality. Unfertilized eggs give rise to male ants. Within an ant colony, male ants are considered the most dispensable and least productive members. In English, male ants are referred to as drones, emphasizing their lack of assigned tasks. They do not forage, work, engage in combat, care for young or injured, or bury the dead. Essentially, they are flying sperm. Male ants live for a few days and perish shortly after mating with multiple females during a brief mid-air mating ritual in late spring or early summer. Quite romantic, isn't it? The saliva collected from the drones is stored and used by the queen throughout her potentially 2-decade-long life. Worker ants typically live for no more than 5 years. While in most species, workers dedicate their entire lives to labor, in certain species like Harpagnothos saltator, workers can mate and lay eggs following the queen's demise. In some species, they even fully replace the queen ant's reproductive function. Queen ants of certain species, like the desert ants of the Sahara or the mushroom-growing ants of Latin America, have the ability to reproduce asexually without the need for males. Unfertilized eggs give rise to sterile offspring that are exact genetic replicas of the queen. In this scenario, the queen ant serves as both a mother and a biological sister, as well as the supreme ruler of the female nation of Kinkin. Scientists discovered that 90% of the mushroom-growing ants in Central and South America were clones of the queen. Despite originating from various nests and different queens, they share identical genes, essentially forming a unified entity. The notion of establishing a personal empire may seem appealing, but the associated costs are undoubtedly high. If you recall the repercussions of asexual reproduction from your schooling days, you'll remember that it results in a lack of genetic diversity, making the species more vulnerable to environmental changes and diseases, potentially leading to extinction. Fortunately, the ant kingdom boasts tens of thousands of species, making the loss of a few dozen or even a few hundred species inconsequential. Ants have thrived on Earth longer than dinosaurs, a fact that seems entirely plausible. Considering their social structure's resemblance to human society, one might even speculate that ants could outlast us. Myrmecology is the field dedicated to the study of ants, a fascinating subject worth exploring. Ant research reveals that each colony operates under a well-defined hierarchy and efficient role allocation system. At the colony's helm sits the queen, the primary architect responsible for its establishment and growth. Encircled by a cohort of robust young guards, she tends to the eggs and larvae, a duty that lasts approximately a month. This initial training is a rite of passage for every young ant, akin to military service. The queen emits a pheromone laden with information about her health and physiological status, which the guard ants ingest and disseminate to others in the colony, akin to social media news sharing. Worker ants venture far from the nest in search of food, which they transport back to the central hub for distribution. While many animals can learn by observing and imitating their parents, such as pigs, dogs, beagles, and monkeys, ants stand out as the only insects with this capability. They can observe experienced workers and soldiers surrounding, attacking, stinging, and eliminating adversaries. Redwood ants exhibit remarkable memory, retracing their path to the same tree annually. Furthermore, ants can pass down memories, with older ants guiding the young along familiar routes before their demise, akin to grandparents imparting wisdom to grandchildren. Despite lacking human-like hearing abilities, ants can detect ground vibrations and communicate through chirping sounds. Scent serves as the primary mode of communication within an ant colony. Worker ants leave pheromone trails when they discover food sources, which are reinforced by others on their return journey. When the food is depleted, the scent dissipates, signaling the colony to relocate. Thief ants also rely on scent to maintain order and detect intruders. Each caste, queen ants, worker ants, and soldier ants, emits distinct odors. Intruders with unfamiliar scents are swiftly dealt with. There is a scent that triggers a frenzied attack state and lures distant ants to come as reinforcements. Exploiting this, some cunning ant species release misleading odor signals that induce colony ants to live together. Typically, each ant colony has only one queen ant. Depending on the population size, the number of queen ants may vary. A Formica yesoensis in superpopulation in Hokkaido is estimated to have up to 306 million worker ants with, you guessed it, 1,180,000 queens. In colonies with multiple queens, a supreme queen reigns over them all and determines how many eggs subordinate queens are allowed to lay. Upon the supreme queen's pheromones no longer being present in the nest, signaling her demise, ants are predators, carnivores, scavengers, and herbivores. Most ants are hunter-gatherers. However, some species have achieved mushroom cultivation, like mushroom-growing ants and leafcutter ants, such as Trachomyrmex and Acromyrmex. They consume a type of fungus exclusive to their territory. They consistently bring leaves back to the nest, cut them into small pieces, and construct mushroom gardens. Mushrooms are considered a form of fertilizer. Ants monitor the fungi's growth and discern which leaves the fungus prefers or dislikes. Even while engaging in farming, the social hierarchy of ants remains evident. Tasks are allocated based on size. The largest worker ants will cut the leaves, the smaller ones will transport the leaves back to the nest, and the smallest ones will tend to the mushrooms. Ants harvest and consume swollen sacs known as myrmecodia. Nutrients are produced by symbiotic bacteria within the body, aiding in the elimination of harmful bacteria to fungi and combating adversaries. Apart from farming, animal husbandry is another aspect of ant agriculture. Instead of raising livestock like buffaloes, cows, sheep, and goats as humans do, ants collaborate with scale insects. Ants safeguard aphids on nearby plants from other predators. In return, aphids excrete sweet and nutritious waste that ants collect. Ants not only wait for the aphids to excrete, but also actively stroke the aphids to stimulate lactation. Ants manage aphids so they will obediently cooperate. During relocation, at the behest of the hostess, ants frequently transport their aphid farm with them. It can be said that ants have developed their own form of agriculture, a path similar to that chosen by human civilizations. Ants appear as remarkable beings. They are incredibly strong creatures. Some leafcutter ant species can lift objects 10 to 50 times their body weight. If you possess the strength of a leafcutter ant, you could effortlessly raise a cow with one hand, a car with the other, and stroll around effortlessly. Ants are remarkable due to their capacity for communication, perception, learning, memory, and navigation. Moreover, the collective consciousness of ants is undeniable. Nonetheless, any system can falter, including ant societies. In 1921, American entomologist William M. Wheeler witnessed a remarkable event, thousands of ants forming a circular procession spanning around 373 meters. This was not a military display or a festive event. It was known as the ant mill or the death spiral. When a group of worker ants lose the pheromone trail, they veer off from the colony and start following one another, creating a self-destructive loop. The ants engage in this perpetual march unwittingly, akin to zombies. Many of them perish from exhaustion within days. Not only do they resemble zombies, but ants can actually fall victim to zombification in a classic horror movie scenario. An infection can mutate humans into fearsome beasts, though the likelihood of such events occurring in humans is minimal. However, ants have been experiencing this for eons. Cordyceps unilateralis, a relative of the cordyceps fungus, may seem innocuous, but for ants, it embodies their worst nightmares, especially if ants can dream. The fungus parasitizes the ants, attacking their nervous system, impairing their cognitive functions, and detaching them from their colony. Moreover, the fungus infiltrates the ant's joints with its hyphae, manipulating it like a marionette towards cool, damp locations. This arrangement serves the fungus well as it transforms the ant into a mobile vessel for its growth. Following the ant's demise, the fungus sprouts from its body, obstructing vital functions and anchoring the ant in place. The fungus consumes the ant from within, replacing each cell until the ant transforms into a fungal entity. Ultimately, the fungus protrudes from the ant's body, dispersing spores to seek out new hosts. This entire process unfolds over approximately 10 days, with the unsettling fact that the ant remains alive for the majority of this ordeal. Consider the horror of experiencing such a fate. It is perplexing that despite hundreds of millions of years of evolution, no organism has managed to establish a flawless society. In conclusion, despite their imperfections, ants are truly extraordinary creatures. They have constructed a society that bears striking resemblances to human civilization. Yet, there is no need to fret about ants suddenly transitioning to an industrial civilization after living in their current manner for millions of years.